Hello and welcome to Passing the Torch, an online Bible study with your host and teacher, Bob Clark. Today we're going to go into a set of lessons called How to Study the Bible. So how far are you willing to go with understanding things about the Bible? It's one thing to read the Bible. We had a set of lessons about how to read the Bible. It's an even better thing to understand the Bible, and we had a set of lessons on understanding the Bible. But there's one thing to just, read it and understand it. But how do you study the Bible? How do you get into it and dig out the little details and such? How do you search out details and understand the connections, document your findings? So we'll get into this in this set of lessons. Let's start with a few definitions. So I'm not going to bore you too much with this, but there's a few of these things that's worth knowing about. So there's some types of Bible reading. There's verse of the day or precious promise Bible readings. So typically it's, reading a single verse without any context, often sent by some online app or pulled out of a box. And normally you probably forget it. Sometimes some people will use that as a memory verse for the day. But one verse at a time doesn't really build a context, doesn't build understanding. There's daily devotional reading. And typically that's reading a daily devotional type book or something you get online, which starts with one or two verses, maybe a few more than that. And then somebody's comments about how it applies to everyday life. At least the better ones do that. And this isn't bad in itself, but if you stop there, you haven't really... It's like having one egg for breakfast and nothing else the rest of the day, if you will. There's devotional Bible reading, and that's where you occasionally, maybe daily, read the Bible on a casual level, if you will, to understand basic application. General Bible reading, I'm sort of dividing these two. Reading through the Bible or parts thereof for general understanding, but not in depth. Often one or more chapters read at a time. So most of my Bible reading is on this level, but there's something that goes beyond that too. So there's meditative Bible reading, which is reading typically small portions of the Bible at a time, specifically to meditate and maybe memorize to better understand God or the Bible. Sometimes when I'm doing this general Bible reading, something will catch my eye. For example, Hebrews chapter 11. I got to the last two verses. I'm not going to read them here. I'm going to let you go and explore that if you want to see them. And I realized, oh, that's the promise that he's talking about. I'm going to leave that with you, and I'm not going to explain what the promise is. All right, then there's this Bible study thing. A deliberate study of the Bible using one or more of multiple possible approaches to get to deeper meanings of the Bible. It's digging deeper. So some definitions associated with Bible study. The first one of these is hermeneutics. Oh, that sounds pretty seminarian. That is from a seminary. Hermeneutics is the science and discipline of interpreting what the text means based on what the text says. So it breaks down into what does the text actually say? That's exegesis. That is, what do these words mean? Okay, then what does the text mean? That is the interpretation of it. So not the individual words, but strung into the sentences and paragraph. What does this mean? How do I know that that is what it means when I come up with that meaning? That's validation. And now that I know what it means, so what? So that's application. Hermeneutics incorporates all of those things. What does the text say? What does it mean? How do I know that that's what it means? And how to apply that in my life? So we have a few definitions of this Bible study thing. let's get into resources available to do Bible study. So I think this ought to be fun. I've got all sorts of Bible resources. Some I use, some not so much. So let's see what we get into here. Some of the types of resources. There are study Bibles. I have a number of study Bibles that have notes and helps and book introductions and outlines and everything. And a lot of study Bibles are really good resources for learning the Bible. There's concordance. So things such as Strong's Concordance is one of the more famous ones. I'll explain what these things are here shortly. Bible dictionaries, whether it's English dictionaries or Hebrew and Greek dictionaries. Bible commentaries, online Bibles, downloadable Bible software and apps, and Audible Bible apps. There's also a resource of teachers. Let's not forget that one. So which version should I use? That is, which version of the Bible should I use for study? Okay, so what you're about to see is Bob's opinions. And like everybody else in the world, I've got opinions. That doesn't mean that there should be your opinion, but it's what I would suggest. How about that? So there's several literal and interlinear versions. You can see some of these, as with all of these, you can find online apps and such that have these things in there. But literal and interlinear versions. So this right here is one of the paper copies that I have, and you notice it is very thick. So it's difficult to take that to church with you every Sunday, but it makes for a great study Bible. I'll get into it. I'll show you some examples of that later. My personal preference for studying the Bible is the New King James Version. It strives for a word and idea translation using the Textus Receptus for the New Testament, but documents the difference between that and the other texts that are out there. I prefer the Textus Receptus. I've got into that in, I think, in the How to Read the Bible set of lessons. I won't repeat that now. The New American Standard Version and that one, let me also add in one that's not here, is the ESV, the English Standard Version. Both of those are trying to be word for word accurate in all that they put in there. However, instead of the Textus Receptus, they use the NU version of the text, which is the 4 manuscripts from Alexandria at a time where I don't particularly trust those 4 manuscripts. Personal opinion. King James Version is a good version to understand, or is a good version, I believe, relatively accurate, but there's a few identifiable errors and often the language is archaic. It is very good for quoting from, though. So next tier down, as far as study is concerned, I would put the New International Version and the Amplified Version and the New Living Translation. So all 3 of those, I still might use these in study to understand, to see if there's word nuances other than what I got out of the New King James. But it's not my typical go-to. Then you have some other versions that I would not recommend for study. Maybe for reading, especially I've got here the Message. So the Message actually comes in, I'm going to say the term, somewhat fun at times. These, the Message and the Living Bible, the old version that is, and some other paraphrases, I would use them as running commentaries, but not as scripture. The Revised Standard Version or New Revised Standard Version, I would not use those for a number of reasons. The Contemporary English Version, personal opinion, if you were to throw it out, I have no problem with that. That is the worst version of the Bible out there. Okay, the reason why is normally when I teach, I say, what does this verse say? And then I say, what does this verse not say? when I go and look at this, the Contemporary English Version, the CEV, they actually translated it the way that it does not say. So I have no use for that one. So what would I suggest? New King James. If you're using the NLT or NIV, keep on. So study Bibles, lots of study Bibles that are out there. Dakes, this is my Dakes, if you could see the words on here. Maybe I can get the light to shine on it just right. Dakes Annotated Reference Bible. So I'll show you some pictures of this later, but if you look at it, there's that much of it that's text, and all of these are notes. Plus you'll get into page after page of notes in between the books. So lots of notes in Dakes. Do I agree with Dakes on everything? Finest Jennings Dake? No, but I can learn from him. I don't have the Rari with me, but so Rari Study Bible is very good. The version that I have is in the NIV. Spirit-Filled Life Bible, I have the New King James Version of that. Life in the Spirit Study Bible is also good. Life Application Study Bible. I've given a number of those away. Quest Study Bible, Hebrew Greek Keyword Study Bible in various versions, Thompson Chain Reference Study Bible, Jeremiah Study Bible, that is David Jeremiah, the Inductive Study Bible, Open Bible. A lot of different preachers have their own study Bibles. Find what you like. I don't have this one listed, but I'm going to point it out. So this is the Chumash, the stone edition of the Chumash. If you notice, I'm holding the book backwards because it's just part of the Old Testament. And in this, you'll see, this is in Hebrew here. And there's Hebrew notes, and then there's English. There's the English, their version of the English translation, and a bunch of English notes from various rabbis. And this is always very interesting to go and look at as a study Bible. Do I hang everything on that? No, I'm finding out what the Jewish perspective is. That's the reason I go and look at that. So these are just a few of literally hundreds of study Bibles available. The key is to find study notes that you find reasonably accurate in a Bible version that you want. All right? No matter whose notes it is, don't accept the notes as Bible truth. It's their opinion. It's their studied opinion. The notes are not scripture. They are fallible humans' opinions of what is meant. So it's their interpretation. And I just held it up to you, but here's an example of the Dakes Annotated Study Bible. And you see that all of that in the top, that's Bible text, but there's all this in the bottom that's study notes. And this is the notes from the Thompson Chain Reference, or not the notes, but it gives you an example of, this is from the cover of the study Bible. Either that or I got it from a picture online. And you can see it points out there's all these side margin notes, and you go and look it up in the back of Thompson's Chain Reference, and it's labeled by numbers here. And so number 4289 is Noah the Ark Builder, and a lot of notes about Noah, about the Ark, and such as that. So you can chase subjects around the Bible with this and other study Bibles. A lot of study Bibles will also include an outline for each book, which is very helpful for understanding. So we're talking about how to study the Bible. Outlines are always a good way to study the Bible, to get an overview before you read through the whole book or chapter. Concordances. So what is a concordance? It's an index for the Bible. So think of a book with an index on it. It's a reference tool that provides an alphabetic listing of biblical words and their locations. So it's in book and electronic forms. I think I'll show you an example here in a moment, but here's an example of Strong's Concordance. You see very thick here. This has every word in the Bible in it. I'll show you an example in a picture in a moment. But it comes in, like I just showed you, book form, websites, there's apps. The book forms are typically tied to specific versions. What you were just looking at is King James Version, but with the apps and such, you can get it tied to any version. Best known book forms is what I just showed you, is the Strong's Concordance. One of the neat things about Strong's Concordance is there's a dictionary in the back, a Hebrew and a Greek dictionary that you can look up each of those words and find out what it means in the Hebrew and the Greek. It's tied to a set of numbers, in Strong's index numbers. And because Strong's did it and they became a standard, many apps, many other concordances use that same, and dictionaries use that same indexing to locate words. There's Cruden's Concordance. There's a number of others. One of the things I like about Dake's Annotated Bible is he has an concordance in the back that has every word in the Bible except for maybe the, and a. But he did it in a very unique way to shorten it up. So here's zoom in on a picture from the concordance that I just picked up and showed you. And you can see that in the A's you have, Abaddon and Abagtha and Abana and whatever else. But you see that there is, if you're looking at the chart, it says it has the location. So let's look at Abaddon. It's located in Revelation 9:11. And it gives you a short little piece of the verse so you can see if this might be the place where you want to look. And then it has the Greek number. So there's Greek and Hebrew numbers, and you can go and look that up in the Greek and Hebrew dictionary in the back of the Strong's Concordance. Bible dictionaries. It's like a typical dictionary, but focuses on biblical words and names. There's also older English dictionaries, such as Webster's 1828, that contain a bunch of biblical references. So when it explains how to, or what a word means, it is actually using a biblical reference. It's an interesting way to do word studies. Some Bible dictionaries are, okay, you got Hebrew and Greek dictionaries. There are several major, or if you will, standard Hebrew and Greek dictionaries that are available for studying. Again, like I just said, typically tied to Strong's numbers for the Hebrew and Greek dictionaries. Most computer and phone Bible apps contain multiple dictionaries, and you can provide fuller meanings for the Hebrew and Greek words. But if you're just looking for the English words, this is Expository Dictionary of Bible Words. And it will give you some of the, well, the way that this one works is you look up the English word, and it may give you several different words in Hebrew or Greek. Bible dictionary example. So if you look at the top of this chart, this is an example of an interlinear Bible that is in an app. Okay, and so for God so loved the world, and that word "world" has the Strong's number of G 2889. So you look up G 2889, and you can look it up in Strong's dictionary, or in this case, what I'm showing you in the chart is Mickelson's Enhanced Strong's Dictionary. So you can go out and look up the word cosmos is the Greek word. And there's also Thayer's Greek Lexicon, and you can go up and look up the word cosmos there. So you get the idea that looking up individual words, when you believe that, as I do, that the Bible is accurate to the word, the original word, then these are the studies where you actually go a lot more in depth. There's Bible commentaries. So this is like listening to a teacher or whatever, but you can go and read it. Okay, so many Bible commentaries are available in both book and electronic formats. Any of the Bible software and apps that are available have all sorts of commentaries. This is one commentary that I will sometimes use, the Jewish New Testament commentary. So this was written by David H. Stern, who is Jewish, Messianic Jewish. So he went through and some of the things I like about this one is he gives some of the Jewish aspects of like Jesus's teachings and such as that. And like the study Bible notes, don't look at a commentary as if it's scripture. Just because the commentary writer said something doesn't mean that it's correct. So when I'm looking at commentaries, I will often look at multiple and pick up what I can, because a lot of the commentary writing I disagree with, but I can learn from it still. What you see in the commentaries, they are learned opinions regarding insights into the referenced verses. They come with the commentator's preconceptions, biases, and religious history. So, for instance, if it is a Catholic commentator, you're going to have the Catholic slant on things. If it is a Reformation era commentator, you're going to have that Reformation era slant on things. But still, a lot of these people can add insights and help to understand. Now, there's a few commentaries I've run into that I looked at them for a few times and then put them back down as like, that's not worth it, because they were so... Some people that write commentaries, you can tell they're really not believers. They're not believing, at least they don't believe in the extraordinary part of God. Let me put it that way. So this is an example of Bible commentary that is in the downloadable app eSword. And if you'll notice in this screen, I have a number of commentaries that I've downloaded. And it also has my verse notes, so I can go in there and create my own. I'll get into that a little bit later. Online Bibles. So there's examples, there's a number of different online Bibles, but more famous ones are YouVersion, which is www.bible.com. There's Bible Gateway, which is www.biblegateway.com. There's the Blue Letter Bible, which is www.blueletterbible.org. And many have corresponding phone apps that you can use. So I've got YouVersion on mine. I think I have several others. And most of these online Bibles have a number of Bible study helps and reading helps. So there's also downloadable Bible software. There are a number of cheap to very expensive Bible software apps that are available on the market. There's also numerous free Bible software packages that allow you to perform detailed studies on your PC or smartphone. Some of the more famous ones, are more well-known ones, are eSword, which is at www.e-sword.net. And eSword started off with the PC version. They made it to where it was on the iPhone. Recently, they finally made an Android version of it, so you can download it to your phone as well. There is The Word, which is at www.theword.net. Very similar to eSword. They both of those two have a few different nuances, so it depends on your personal preference. On my Android phone, I have MySword for Android, which is www.mysword.info. So there is the free part of the app. There's also the part that you pay for if you want more capabilities. But I've done great with the free version. There's also Audible Bible apps. So many available Audible Bible apps. You can also get versions on YouTube. Bible.is. So that's one that I have had for a long time. It went through a time period there where it wasn't so great, but I think they've finally fixed it again. There are a number of other apps as well, and so this, to me, this is excellent for listening to while going to sleep. Well, so my wife and I, sleep together. I don't let this be, loud to where she's hearing it. So how do I listen to it? I put on headphones? No, when I'm going to bed, I don't want headphones on. So what I've done is I've taken a cheap pair of headphones. Now they make headphones or speakers just for this, but I took a cheap pair of headphones, broke it, took the speakers, put them inside my pillow, and put them on the bottom of the pillow. And so I will listen to the Bible apps like that when I'm going to sleep. Also, don't forget to stand on the shoulders of the teachers that came before us. So if it comes to, I've talked about these men before, but when it comes to general Bible teaching, people like Chuck Missler, and who's passed away a few years back, David Jeremiah, Robert Morris up at Gateway, Alan Nolan, who is in Oklahoma, excellent teacher, just going verse by verse. If you're talking about faith, healing, and Holy Spirit, Kenneth Hagin, I would put him above pretty much anybody else at this point. Prophecy, Chuck Missler, David Jeremiah, Clarence Larkin, who wrote books a long time ago. The other thing I want to point out here about teachers is when you're trying to understand the Bible and how does the Bible interpret the Bible, how do you understand the words, listen to some of these teachers or read their works. See how they, the good teachers, see how they interpreted the Bible. That is, how they took the Bible as literal and understood it from there. So with that, I think we're going to end this lesson, and next time we'll get into talking about general study approaches and how do we understand, how do we approach the studies. And then we'll talk also about ad hoc studies. And with that, we will see you next time on Passing the Torch. So long.